for that
So
subset.
we have a lot to learn from you, Ross, because, the average Joe, average Jane citizen like me can learn a ton from some of the things you have seen and learned and heard in the field. And so, and that brings me to what we were going to talk about next, which is the criminal mindset. So, what is it that you've learned about criminals that you believe most people don't understand, such as common misconceptions or things that people think work but don't work based on your experience?
Yeah, so there's a lot. I could talk for a
Yeah,
whole
I
hour on
know.
that subject alone, but to keep it short, we tend to focus on the most violent subset of offenders for good reason, right? Those are the guys we need to be scared of. But there's two big things that I would throw out there to folks who haven't looked into that a whole lot, which is just to give you an example. One of the things we hear on occasion is, "I wear my gun as a deterrent." And
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, I am absolutely a supporter of open carry. If that's what you want to do, great, you should be able to do it. However, I would caution people in that open carry probably does deter some people. It deters some very unmotivated people. And the guys that I supervised who absolutely did reoffend on some occasions, and I had to arrest them among other things, um, they are not at all deterred by open carry. Having
Mhm.
conversations with them 10 hours a day for, I ran the math once just on the curiosity, and it was well over 10,000 hours talking to these guys in my career so far. And I'm only like halfway through.
Mhm.
So they've all been shot. All of them have bullet holes in them. They've all been shot at. They've all had guns pointed at them. By not just cops. They all live in violent neighborhoods. Almost all. If I had a typical guy, it's dad's dead or in prison, brothers are dead or in, or on their way.
Mhm.
Um, and so when you take that kind of a person, desensitization is a survival mechanism.
Mhm.
So it's not at all unusual when I had bad things happen and I pointed a gun at one of them because I had to. They did not even react. They just blinked and went, whatever, and kept on doing what
Yeah.
they were doing. And so I don't want to say the gun isn't an answer. It absolutely is. And,
Mhm.
if you start looking at what was the study that talked about defensive gun uses that weren't reported in the United States, and the estimate is, I think it was Kleck and Gertz or something like that. It was 65,000 to 2.5 million or something like that unreported.
Wow.
Absolutely, we know that pointing a gun at people works a lot of times.
Mhm.
But if having the gun on you open carry is your only idea for deterrence and avoidance or anything else, and situational awareness and all that, the buzzwords, man, I can tell you the problem's deeper than that for the people you got to be scared of.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I would mention is, besides that, the second thing is like, we focus on the violent offenders for good cause, but then when we see in the news people shoveling snow in an alley shooting each other, neighbors shooting each other, road rage,
Mhm.
we kind of tend to, when I talk to people, I get the answer of, well, those people were just crazy. Those people were just stupid. Who dares someone to shoot them? Yeah. And I say, I've seen family members and friends and close friends who should know better, and myself included, do things in traffic that make zero sense.
Mhm.
Probably should have just
Irrational.
backed off, but said, yeah, I can make it, or pride, right?
Mhm.
So my second point would be, if we're going to bother to carry a gun for the 1% of the 1% of problems that we're going to run into where that gun is going to be useful in our lives, because it's not going to pay our bills, it's not going to fight the fist fight for us, it's not going to do any of that other stuff. Why aren't we looking at ourselves just a little bit more? And those situations where people shoot each other in the alley over shoveled snow, and ask ourselves how that happens.
Mhm.
And the scariest thing that I've come to conclude from working the caseloads I have is just how shockingly normal most of these guys are most of the time. And don't get me wrong, they're desensitized to violence. They have a capacity for it that the average person probably doesn't. But I also wouldn't preclude the average person from violence. And I think that under the right circumstances, almost anyone can have that moment. And I think that's interesting. And I think that bears looking into, right? So that's kind of my other side point is, hey, if you're going to carry a gun, look at your own behavior, look at what you're doing. And it's not a force field, we know, right? And in fact, it may even attract in some cases. I had guys on my caseload who absolutely went after guns that they saw. I had guys on my caseload who smashed and robbed their neighbor who was a sheriff's deputy because they knew that there were guns and tasers. And then one of them robbed a Circle K with a taser, which was
wow.
And body armor. They're not scared of that stuff, some of them. So I'm not sure advertising is entirely always the best way to go. Right. So.
Makes sense.